Hello again, everyone. I am happy to say that this game has now been added to the chill category, so I'll be able to revisit it much more often.
지금 시간이 났습니다. 마저 인터뷰를 진행하도록 하겠습니다. 싱크 듀얼 교본 110페이지부터였습니까?
Thank you, Mersault. Now that said, looks like we got some mail. I already cleared all the notifications before we began, so that's why this isn't lit up annoyingly. Regular maintenance, and oh, looks like the live stream wasn't too long ago. Very nice. What's on here? Suppress 20 abnormalities. That must have been something I got last time because I don't remember. Because I haven't touched this account since the last video. I reckon we should just get on with things right away, shall we? Canto 3, The Unconfronting. Humming along. The sun is almost set, leaving the bus to be shrouded in dusk. There's a funny story about this canto, or so I've heard, but let's leave that for later. Charon's humming a song while driving. I find myself singing along in my head to that strangely familiar tune.
아름다운 연주는 세상의 망가진 것들에게서부터 나옵니다. 아이러니한 이치죠.
The most beautiful of performances are born from broken and ruined things. Ironic, the way the world works. Virgilius spoke, having noticed that I was looking at the driver's seat.
하나, 온전히 음유를 느낄 수 있는 것은 정작 그들의 몫이 아니니 이 얼마나 억울합니까?
Alas, they have not the privilege to fully appreciate the glee of their own music. Oh, how unjust that is.
카론, 오늘은 기분이 좋아 보이는구나.
Charon, you look like you're in a good mood today. Charon nodded.
기분 좋으면 노래를 부르는 거야.
Joy brings out singing.
그래,
I see.
하지만
Although,
너는 오히려 울적할 때 그 노래를 흥얼거렸던 것 같은데.
as far as I remember, you would often hum that song when you felt down.
카론, 그런 기억 없어.
Charon has no such memories.
카론은 즐거울 때만 노래해.
Charon sings when she's happy. Charon is a bit unfortunate. Virgilius's eyes seem to well with a subdued shade of dark. The kind of hue that would be picked right away if one wanted to express solitude as a color. But it only lasted for a brief moment. So I decided to dismiss it as a vivid sunset playing tricks with the light.
이제 카론이 흥얼거리는 세상은 고요한 무채색입니다.
The world Charon hums now is one that lacks sound and color.
길고 긴 터널 속을 헤어나오지 못하고 있으니.
She's going through a long tunnel with no exit in sight. I'm sure that, just like the history of my own life that I've forgotten, Charon and Virgilius must have their own threads of cruel reminders.
이런 너무 개인적인 이야기는 그만하기로 하죠, 단테.
Ah, pardon me. I believe that's enough of personal stories, Dante.
당신의 업무는 나와 친분을 쌓는 것이 아니라 저들을 관리하는 것이니까.
Your work is to manage your crew, not befriend this old guide. When I looked at his face again, that momentary hint of sadness had fleeted, replaced with a faint smile. I gave him a few nods, then turned around to check on the sinners. Our bus passengers have had lifted spirits for a while now. It helped that they did what they were assembled for and secured a golden bow for the first time. All the sinners were busy talking about their exploits in J-Corp's district.
내가 그때 딱 카드 내는 걸 봤어야 했는데 진짜 명장면이었다니까.
You should have seen me showing that car right there. Seriously, that was a real highlight.
아, 저 이야기만 7번째 들으니까 슬슬 지겨워져서 그러는데. 그래서 이번엔 어디로 가는 거지?
I'm starting to get sick of hearing the same story for the 7th time in a row, so let me change the subject. Where are we going this time?
이번 목적지는 K사 둥지다.
This time, we're headed to K-Corp's nest.
아, 11구? 덕분에 평생 가보지도 못했을 것 다 돌아다니네.
District 11, eh? Job's taken me to all sorts of places I'd have never thought to visit.
그곳에도 손에 꼽히는 대단한 분이 계신다네. 아마 근처에 기념품 가게도 있을 것이야. 난 한정판 피규어 세트를 꼭 사고 싶었어.
It's home to another great individual, and you are certain to find a souvenir shop there. I've always yearned for a limited edition figurine set.
오, 거기 햄버거 맛있다고 유명한 프랜차이즈 식당 있지 않았어?
Ooh, didn't it also have a restaurant famous for its... Ooh, didn't it also have a restaurant chain famous for its Hamburg steak?
요즘에는 세상 살기가 편해진 모양이군. 내가 임무를 위해 행군을 할 땐 입에 소금만 물고 가는 것이 전부였다.
Life has gotten much easier these days, hasn't it? Back in my marching days, all I had was a pinch of salt in my mouth.
그러게 말이에요. 제가 항해할 때 목구멍에 넘길 수 있는 음식이라곤 철맛이 나는 통조림 수프가 전부였는데.
I know, right? The only food I could swallow during my voyage was canned soup that tasted like iron. I'm familiar.
침 고인다. 그렇지 않아, 류슈?
Can't wait to try the steak, right, Ryoshu?
뭐 지역마다 다를 피의 색을 생각하니 침이 고이긴 하군.
Well, imagining the variances in blood color by region does make me salivate.
진짜 무슨 얘기를 못 하겠어. 꼬맹이, 너는 뭐가 먹고 싶어?
Ugh, can't discuss anything with you. Hey kiddo, what do you want to eat? Looking for someone to share tales with and have a sensible conversation, Rodia naturally turned to Sinclair. However,
싱클레어?
Sinclair.
어머, 얘 왜 이래?
What? Golly. I messed up. What? Gosh, golly, what's wrong?
하얗게 질렸군. 과호흡과 오한도 관측된다.
He's turned pale. He's also suffering from hyperventilation and tremors. How long has he been like this?
베르길리우스님이 K사라는 언급을 했을 때부터입니다.
Ever since Mr. Virgilius mentioned K-Corp. Why didn't you tell me earlier?
명령이 없었기 때문입니다.
Because you did not order me to do so. Mersault stared at me like I was at fault for not doing the obvious.
속이 갑자기 안 좋아져서요. 죄송해요.
I just got an upset stomach. Sorry.
진짜 괜찮은 거 맞아?
Really sure you're okay? Now that I think about it, Faust, I'm noticing a trend where one of us has visceral reactions to the destinations that Virgilius reveals. Additionally, when we arrive, it turns out that the place does have a history with the person in question. It might seem a bit early for Dante to come to this realization, but you know, what's the old saying? Once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, third is a pattern. Does that have something to do with the reason we joined the company?
우리라고 칭하시는군요.
You just referred to the team as we. Huh?
미묘한 변화의 차이를 감지하는 것도 저의 주 임무라서요.
It's a part of my mission to detect the slightest of changes.
그리고 수감자들의 입사 이유에 대해서는 상세히 알려드릴 수 없지만
As for your question, while I can't tell you the reasons for recruiting the sinners in detail,
저희가 가야 할 행선지와 수감자 각각의 신변이 어느 정도 관련이 있다는 사실은 부정할 필요가 없겠죠.
there'd be no point in denying that our destinations and the backgrounds of each sinner are indeed related to a degree.
기다 아니다부터 말하면 될걸. 쓸데없이 혓바닥을 길게 누리는 건 배운 놈들 특기인가?
Do all the uppish snobs have some condition that makes them yap on and on about things that can be answered with a plain yes or no?
두갈적 발화가 언제나 옳지는 않아요. 파우스트는 그때그때의 가장 효과적인 방식을 선택할 뿐이랍니다.
Hysteron proteron isn't always correct. Faust simply adopts the most effective mode of communication for the given situation. I have to look that up. Hysteron proteron. A figure of speech in which what should come last is put first, i.e., an inversion of the natural order. For example, I die, I faint, I fail. Alright, I can get that.
뭐?
Hystero what?
배운 사람이라서가 아니라 당신이 너무 못 배운 사람이라 파우스트의 말이 헷갈린다고 한 거예요.
It means that you're struggling to understand Faust because you're too uneducated, not that Faust is overeducated. Why you? Ugh. Just as Heathcliff approached Faust with his bat shaking in fury, Sinclair suddenly started throwing up on the floor. The bus finally quieted down after that. Geez, that did sound a little too visceral. Inspection. Oh, and this is a fighting level. Yes, indeed.
해오던 대로 방송을 켜겠다.
Shortly after the situation with Sinclair was dealt with,
아까는 11구 뒷골목으로 간다는 걸 K사라고 잘못 말한 거지?
by the way, you meant the back streets of District 11 when you said K Corp's Nest, yeah?
딴지 걸기엔 다들 들떠 보이는 분위기라 타이밍을 놓쳤는데.
I missed pointing it out earlier since everyone got a bit excited there.
난 어지간해서는 잘못 말하는 법이 없다.
I rarely misspeak, if ever.
맞게 들었어, 그레고르. 우리는 K사 둥지로 간다.
I know what I said, Gregor. K Corp's Nest is where we're going.
아니 근데 둥지로 들어가려면
Huh. Alright, but if we're entering a nest,
그래, 심사가 필요하지.
indeed, there's the immigration process.
난 K사 비자 없는데 나 빼고 다들 있는 거 아니지?
I don't have a K Corp visa. You ain't about to tell me everyone else got one, right?
뭐냐? 왜 날 보냐?
What? Why are you looking at me?
방법은 간단하다. 닭, 돌.
The solution is simple. C-I.
그리고 뚫릴 때까지 죽사를 반복하면 돼.
And keep on D-E-R till we've breached the defense.
즉, 닭, 돌, 죽, 살.
In short, C-I-D-E-R. Whatever that eccentric abbreviation means for Ryoshu, the sinners have learned to stop questioning it.
링버스 컴퍼니 정도의 회사라면 그냥 통과될지도 모를 텐데요.
A company as big as ours might get a free pass.
그리고 료슈 씨가 말한 방식으로는 엄청난 시간이 소모될 거예요. 날개가 관리하는 둥지를 대체 뭐라고 생각하는 거예요?
Not to mention, breaking through using the method Dear Ryoshu suggested will take ages. How badly must you underestimate a nest actively governed by a wing to say that? Oh, I see. No one's gonna take into account how much I'll suffer for that cider, huh? Sadly, none of our sinners bothered to respond to me in any capacity.
이스마엘이 말한 대로 우리는 비자를 면제받아 통과한다.
As Ishmael said, we'll pass immigration without needing a visa.
림버스 컴퍼니의 뒤엔 꽤 다양한 분야의 주주들이 계시거든.
Limbus Company has backing from the shareholders of a wide array of fields.
아, 혹시 H사의 주주님도 아시나요?
Oh, do you happen to know the shareholder of H-Corp then?
제 동생이 어렸을 때 붉은색 여권이 아니면 안 된다고 고집을 부려서 직접 저희 집에 방문해 주신 적이 있으시거든요.
They once personally visited our home because my younger sibling insisted upon having a red passport as a kid. Well, that's a bit of an odd thing. Not that this happened, but that the fact that he implies that the shareholder is the same person as who this might have been suggests that shareholder is an active position, so to speak, and not just a normal guy who happens to own a stake in a company. Though I'm sure that is part of the job. Interesting.
글쎄, 나 같은 일개 길잡이는 그런 것까지 아는 위치가 아니라서.
Couldn't say. I'm merely a humble guide who wouldn't be in the position to know such a thing.
그렇게 대답할 가치가 있어 보이는 질문도 아니고.
Otherwise, the question doesn't seem like one that's really worth answering.
아, 너무하네요.
How harsh.
그보다 중요한 건 검문소까지 가는 길목이다.
That leads the route to the checkpoint as our concern.
검문소의 심사가 까다롭다는 건 통행권을 노리는 자들이 지천으로 널려 있다는 뜻이기도 하지.
Thorough inspection means that there are plenty of people looking for an easy way in, including those who'd take the pass by force.
버스 근처에 불청객의 소리가 많다.
I hear several interlopers surrounding the bus. Well, have bus will battle. Try to be a bit more careful with your health. No, I mean, I'm just worried about you, that's all. Level 16.
뭐?
Level 12. I'm at a disadvantage here, but I do have the advantage in health, so I might still be able to push through with force.
먼저 간다.
That was great work you did there. Keep it rolling, will you?
전혀 쉽네.
Our enemies seem to be under the weather. We shall take advantage of this.
그 누구도 볼 수 없게. 완전한 침묵.
Do again what you just did. You've another crushing blow in you, right?
금방 다녀올게.
다음은
균형이 무너졌군요.
이 정도야. 한 건 했다. 맛있는 거 준비해줘, 단테.
Looks like things are in our favor. Let's keep it going.
딱 좋은 결투.
It's just that easy.
기분 좋은 카론. 기분 좋게 도착.
Cock-a-hoop? Carol's Cock-a-hoop parking. What?
자, 내리지. 심사받을 시간이다.
Alright, off the bus. Time to get inspected.
아, 혹시나 해서 말하는 건데 너희가 평소에 하던 대로.
Ah, and let me add this just in case you're feeling inclined to your usual antics.
그러니까 볼성사납게 사고를 치고 다녀도 일이 수습될 거라는 기대는
Don't go around making a scene expecting things to go your way.
이곳 검문소에서는 버리는 게 좋을 거다.
Because that will not be how it works in this particular place. I thought his words were pretty intimidating, but despite the worries,
K사로 방문하신 모든 분께 환영의 인사를 드립니다.
we welcome all visitors to K-Corp's Nest open-heartedly.
한 줄로 순서에 맞게 입장하신 다음 안내문에 따라 적합한 위치에 서 주십시오.
Please form an orderly line as you enter and stand where the instructions indicate. The menacing and interrogative atmosphere could subdue the temper of any first-time visitors, and the sinners were no exception. I could occasionally hear Sinclair sniffling, followed by Roddy and Gregor calming him. Any of my questions why were met with heads shaken sideways.
그래, 평소에도 이렇게나 질서를 지키면 얼마나 좋아. 소풍 나온 병아리 같이.
Look here, how nice it is to see you all stay in line and behave, like a brood of chicks on an outing.
당신이 왜...
Wait, why are you out here? What made you follow us outside the bus this time? Noticing my flustered reaction at the unexpected company, Virgilius opened his mouth.
이곳이 둥지이기 때문입니다, 단테.
Because this is a nest, Dante.
혹여나 이곳에서 예상 못한 사고라도 치는 순간
If one of you were to get into unexpected trouble here,
단테, 당신이 전부 책임지기는 어려워질 테니까.
well, Dante, the responsibility will be a bit too heavy for you to bear alone. When Virgilius put it like that, it sounded as if he were saying, you're not reliable enough to be sent without supervision. But I knew it'd be wise to keep this to myself. Wait, was it this early? Oh gosh, I'm definitely underleveled for this.
깔끔한 전투였어요. 적의 모든 급소를 파악했거든요.
Good to hear, Ishmael. Oh gosh. Time to get ready for the first filter. I might have to do some gacha draws or level up my sinners.
금방금방 빠지네요. 10분 정도만 기다리면 저희 차례가 오겠어요.
The line's moving quickly. It'll be our turn in about 10 minutes at most.
통과 질문은 저희 13명이 다 해야 하나요? 단테 씨는 말을 못 알아들을 텐데 어떻게 해야 하죠?
Will all 13 of us need to answer immigration questions? They won't be able to understand Manager Dante, so what should we do? Ishmael seemed to have a habit of speaking quickly and being more inquisitive when she got anxious.
안 그래도 그 이야기를 하려던 참이었지.
I was just about to get to that.
잘 들어. K사 직원은 이쪽 줄에 서 있는 사람들에게는 매우 간단한 질문만 할 거다.
Listen up. The K-Corp official will only ask very simple questions to the passengers in this line.
그리고 너희들 또한 매우 간단한 대답만 하면 되는 거야.
And your answers will be similarly concise.
신문소 직원이 어떤 목적으로 왔냐고 물어보면
When the border official asks about the nature of your visit,
림버스 컴퍼니 업무상으로 왔습니다. 업무 비자를 확인해 주세요.
say, I'm here for business on the behalf of Limbus Company. Please refer to my work visa.
라고 대답을 하면 된다. 토시 하나 빼먹지 말고 그대로 외워.
Remember this exact phrase so that you can recite it word for word.
그 밖에는 내가 알아서 할 테니 그저 문제를 일으키지 않을 사람이라는 것만 증명하면 돼.
I'll take care of the rest, so you just have to prove that you aren't here to cause trouble. In case the music hasn't already made it obvious, there will be trouble.
혹시나 저 말을 외우지 못하겠다면 차라리 입을 다물고 있으세요.
If even memorizing that is too much of a burden for you, I suggest that you keep your mouth shut.
그저 갖고 계시는 사원증을 내밀기만 해도 되니까요.
You can present your employee card instead. Keep quiet and don't cause trouble. Easiest tasks in the world. Oh dear. I sneakily mumbled a sarcastic remark. I was worried that Faust might rat me out, but thankfully, Virgilius was idly staring off into space, sparing me from a scathing commentary.
자, 그럼
Now, next up.
질문이 있는 사람은 내가 정말 가치 있는 질문을 생각했는가에 대한 고민을 해본 후에
If you have a question, make sure to first ask yourself if it's actually meaningful.
조용히 손을 들도록.
Then quietly raise your hand. Several hands were lifted, including mine.
Rodion.
Rodion.
업무 목적이니까 무기는 들고 들어가도 되지?
Since this trip is for business, we can carry our weapons, yeah?
그렇다. 다음.
Correct. Next.
그럼 그렉의 기기괴기한 팔이나 단테의 근사한 시계머리도 상관없겠네?
Then Greg's creepy crawly arm and Dante's she blockhead are getting past too?
맞아요. 참고로 관리자님의 머리는 무기가 아니라 의체로 분류되기 때문에 관광 비자여도 허용은 돼요. 비록 불사의 능력을 지니고 있더라도요.
That should be the case. For your reference, our manager's head counts as a prosthetic rather than a weapon, which means it'd be approved even if what we had were a tourist visa, powers to revive notwithstanding. Ishmael took the role of the model student and answered in Virgilius's stead. It feels like something changed about Ishmael's attitude since the casino job. She seems to have decided to take matters into her own hands after I betrayed her expectations of my capabilities as a leader.
정확해.
Precisely. Gregor and I put our hands down at the same time.
그리고 리오슈, 담배는 끄고 얘기하도록.
And Ryoshu, put out your cigarette before you speak.
난 손 안 들었다만.
I didn't raise my hand. Virgilius was doing his best to ignore Don Quixote's arm stretched skyward. But he finally caved and gave the woman with an adamantly raised hand the chance to speak.
그래, 돈키호테. 뭐지?
Fine, Don Quixote. What is it?
저 유리벽은 어떤 용도로 있는 것이오?
For what purpose doth that barrier of glass serve? Following Don Quixote's finger, our attention was drawn to the glass wall stood in the middle of the building. On the other side of that clear dividing wall were countless people waiting in line.
저쪽은 기다린다기보다는 아예 사람들이 바닥에 앉아 있군.
That line's slow to a crawl. People are sat on the floor waiting for it to move.
줄을 선지 꽤 시간이 지난 모양이야.
Looks like they've been there for quite some time.
무장 경호원도 많군. 이곳 인원의 3배.
There are many armed guards as well, 3 times as many compared to this side.
대부분 건물에 세워져 있는 유리벽은 안전을 위한 용도일 가능성이 크다.
Most of the glass walls you find inside buildings are there for safety reasons.
뭐 쉽게 말하자면 뒷골목 사람들 전용 구역이지. 둥지마다 방식은 다르지만 어쨌든 제대로 된 비자가 없이 다른 둥지로 가는 건 진짜 까다롭거든.
Well, simply put, that line's for Backstreet's faults. Each nest handles immigration differently, but wherever it may be, it's super duper hard to get into another nest without a proper visa.
왜 검문소 근처에서 목숨까지 걸고 우리를 습격하려고 했겠어? 비자를 강제로 빼앗아서라도 둥지에 가려고 했던 거지.
Why do you think those bullies jumped us on the way to the checkpoint? They wanted our visa so they could enter the nest.
그리고 우리가 해결해 줄 수 없는 문제이기도 하지.
A problem we are not in our power to resolve. However, that answer didn't satisfy Don Quixote. Whether it was the fault of the gloomy yet oppressive atmosphere of the area beyond the wall, or the disturbances happening in there, I couldn't say.
관리자님, 저희 차례입니다.
Manager, it's our turn now. Huh? Huh? Right. Our line moved at such a quick pace we barely had time to chat before it was our turn to answer the official's questions.
기억하세요. 그쪽에서 어떤 목적으로 왔냐고 하면
Remember, when you're asked about the purpose of your visit,
한 번만 더 말하면 심사관인지 뭔지 아는 놈이랑 만단지에 해주겠어.
remind me one more time and I'll show sangria to you and the official or whatever. Despite Ishmael's worries, our inspection was smooth sailing.
소속 그룹 이유를 말씀해 주세요.
Please state your affiliation and purpose of visit.
업무차 림버스 컴퍼니에서 왔습니다. 사원증 확인 부탁드립니다.
I've come from Limbus Company on business. Here's my employee card.
확인했습니다. 다음.
All checked out. Next.
림버스 컴퍼니에서 왔죠. 비즈니스 때문에. 사원증 보시면 된대요.
From Limbus Company, business reasons. Take a look at my card and all that.
확인했습니다. 다음.
All checked out. Next. After our first center proved who we work for, it was a breeze for the rest of us. The official asked the same question in the same dry tone, took a cursory glance at our faces and employee cards, though based on their speed, it seemed more like a customary gesture rather than an actual look over, then let each center pass.
저쪽에서 무슨 문제가 생겼나 봐요.
Something's amiss over there. The glass wall standing between us and them was thick enough to block out sound. It was hard for us to tell what was going on through the wall. However, I could see what was happening unambiguously. Someone with cuffed hands was being dragged away by security. You may have noticed this conspicuous empty space here. And a small child was crying next to them, clearly scared and confused.
신경 쓰지 말죠. 잘은 모르지만 날개의 금기를 어긴 모양이에요.
We shouldn't bother. I don't know what happened, but I guess someone broke a taboo.
그래. 가난뱅이들이 어긴 금기를 받자 만족스러울 만큼 충분한 돈을 뒷구멍에 찔러주지 않았다는 거 웬 더 있겠어?
Yeah, sure. Those impoverished vandals and their audacity to break the taboo of not stuffing enough cash in the right people's pockets. Am I right?
지금 저한테 이죽대는 건가요?
Are you mocking me right now?
뭐야? 신경 쓸 일은 아니라며 너무 신경 쓰는데?
Huh. What? I thought you didn't care. Guess someone's Snickers are in a twist. While I was distracted by Heathcliff loudly celebrating his first successful tease on Ishmael, our usual suspect sprang forth at her least expected moment yet again.
소속 그룹 이유를 말씀해 주세요.
Please state your affiliation and purpose of visit.
약자에게 자유를 주기 위해 왔노라!
I am come to liberate the weak and powerless. An emotion is expressed for the first time on the checkpoint official's face. Flabbergastation. They looked up at Don Quixote with a face screaming that it was flabbergasted.
저자들을 풀어주게! 고통스러워하고 있지 않은가?
Release them at once. Can you not see that they are suffering?
소속 그룹 이유를 말씀해 주세요.
Please state your affiliation and purpose of visit. The official ignored her demand and parroted the same question. All the while, Don Quixote was getting more upset by the minute. And then, in looking through the transparent wall again, I saw the desperate child mouth a scream at the man dragged away in handcuffs. Daddy.
그대가 나설 마음이 없다면 내가 직접 해결하겠네.
If you are unwilling to take action, then I shall myself.
코드 퍼플. 금기 K185 위반 발생.
Code purple. Violation of taboo K185 on site.
트롬보사이트 지원 요망. 재전파 트롬보사이트.
Requesting thrombocyte units. Repeat, requesting thrombocyte. Veering away from inquiry like a broken record, the official spoke an intimidating immune response to the radio.
안내합니다. 코드 퍼플. 순환 이동 검문소 14번. 트롬보사이트, 루코사이트.
Attention all personnel. Code purple. Circulation hall 2. Inspection booth 14. Thrombocyte. leukocyte. Blaring sirens accompanied the perplexing announcement, all the while thick metal gates shut around us.
그냥 대갈통을 부수고 시체자루에 넣어서 지나갈 걸 그랬어.
Should have smashed her skull in and carried her in a body sack.
그런다고 아주 달라질 건 없었을 것 같지만요.
I doubt that would have made much of a difference.
트롬보 루코 각각 혈소판, 백혈구를 의미하는 것 같소만.
Thrombo, leuko. I believe they refer to platelets and white blood cells respectively.
저들을 의미하나 보군요. K사와 어울리네요.
It must be them, fitting for K-Corp, I'd say. Looking in the direction Faust indicated, we all saw what she meant. Security forces wearing menacing uniforms were staring at us. Taboo. Clear within 10 turns. Yeah, this is probably gonna be my first loss. Difficulty 20, my guys are level 12, but let's see how this goes.
목표인가요? 손쉽죠.
I've gotten used to this sort of situation, but it looks pretty serious.
네, 날개의 금기를 어겼으니까요.
Indeed, we violated a taboo of the wing after all. It's not like anyone was hurt. Can we just talk this through? Faust looked straight into my face. For Faust to face someone directly when she usually stares into empty space as she speaks can only indicate one thing. I must have said something incredibly frustrating.
어떤 날개든 금기를 어겼다는 건
No matter the wing, infringement of a taboo means... A loud explosion left Don Quixote dismembered where she stood.
별도의 발포 경고 없이 금기제를 처단할 수 있다는 뜻이에요.
That lethal measures can be taken against the violator without warning. It looks like Border Control isn't willing to forgive us until they dismember the rest of the sinners. Armed security staff was surrounding us on all sides.
날이 갈수록 놀라워.
You never cease to surprise me.
바닥 밑에 고여있던 조그만 기대감마저 증발시켜버리니 말이야.
You managed to wring out the last drop of expectation I had left for you.
난 빠지지. 저 녀석의 단독 범행이라고 하든 다 같이 해결하든 알아서 해.
I'm keeping out. Pin the whole thing on her, or take responsibility, or whatever.
아까는 관리자님만으로는 부족하니까 동행한 거라면서요.
I thought you accompanied us to handle situations that our manager can't alone.
어쩔 수 없는 것에 책임을 져준다고 했지. 이따위 헛짓거리에 동참해준다는 뜻은 아니었다.
I came with you to take care of inevitable problems, not having a pissing session in the wind. Virgilius casually pushed his way through the line of armed guards and leaned against the wall. He then crossed his arms, as if to further drive home that he'll remain a spectator. My clock isn't a magic cure-all for all your problems. Don't just charge in willy-nilly, okay?
그 누구도 볼 수 없게.
Oh no, you're in for a nasty beating.
금방 다녀올게.
그 누구도 볼 수 없게.
금방 다녀올게.
You may have noticed that most of these guys, despite taking some hits, are still on full HP or near full HP. A sinner just died. I can bring them back later at least. That is because not only does their defense skill heal them, heal 10 HP on use, they also have this passive. HP bullets. At the start of the turn, heal 15 HP. At less than 50% HP, heal 15 additional HP. AKA, unless you can deal 30 damage consistently, well, you're not really getting through this wall easily.
그 누구도 볼 수 없게.
This is a loss, but I am going to play through it, just for, well, giggles, really. And yes, if all sinners are staggered, it auto-proceeds.
따뜻한 차가 마시고 싶어요.
젠장, 이거 진짜 열받네. 형씨, 여기서 안 끝낼 거지?
Bugger, all this got me pure raging. You ain't gonna let this go, right, mate? And if you lose or quit or give up, you get back all but one of the Enkephalin you spent. Unless it's a dungeon that takes modules, in which case you get them all back. And when someone reaches Uptide 3, as long as it's a gacha identity, you get a little scene for them. A detailed answer to that question can be found on page 35 of Sync Association's official promotion booklet. Okay. These scenes aren't voiced, however, so I can just get through it rather quickly. While I can verbally relay that information to you, consider that you are making use of your own precious time to conduct this interview. It is recommended that you ask questions that cannot be answered by external means. Why won't you just give me a straight answer so I can move on to the next question? So thought the interviewer as she bit her tongue to hold back that very question. She smiled awkwardly, tightly gripping onto her poor microphone. Any local, anyone who has even a passing interest in the sync actually, will tell her that that's just his style, and the interviewer thought that she knew what to expect from interviewing someone like him. But nothing could prepare her for just how intense he was. I wish he was just playing things up for the show, but that's confidence in his eyes. He totally believes in everything he's saying. As she scribbled in her notepad, the interviewer began to rack her brain for what questions she could use to redirect this into a normal interview. Then let's move on to the next question. I've heard that you often broadcast or live stream yourself during work, Mersault. That is a true statement, yes. Right, and I've watched a few edits of your streams before. It would be preferable to rewatch the recording of my broadcasts instead of the edits. I have watched several stream compilations of my broadcasts and determined that the various visual effects and exaggerated edits make it difficult to observe the form and the movement, both of which are of paramount importance. Ahaha, I see. This interviewer was infamous in the North for annoying her interviewees. In other words, in other, slightly more crass words, she was a chatterbox. She knew her own reputation and was willing to run with it if it meant that she could get an even better interview out of her subjects, but this guy's way worse than I am. The conflicted writing in her notepad was starting to slant from the sheer pressure. Anyways, I wanted to ask what got you into the world of live streaming. That is a question that has been answered numerous times during my broadcast. Yes, however, this particular recording is for viewers who are not necessarily familiar with the sync or you, Mersault. Haha. I see. I did not think of that. My apologies. The child bowed politely, then began. It began with the need for anonymous critiques of my form. For reasons that I am unaware of, my colleagues within the association seemed unwilling to make honest criticisms for me. The interviewer had a good idea why, but she did not show it. Instead, she grinned politely and held the microphone closer. As expected, critiques from anonymous sources have been very beneficial to the improvement of my skills. Incidental benefits of this practice were... this is quite the timely opportunity. The child stopped and looked to the side. Think Association West Section 3, Mersault. Didn't expect to see you this far up north. Excuse me, what's going on? I mentioned in passing in one of my broadcasts that I am going on an expedition in the northern regions. Thereafter, I received several simultaneous challenges to a duel. I made an appointment with all of them, scheduled to occur at the same time for the sake of efficiency. However, it seems that I have underestimated the duration of this interview. Same here, didn't think it'd go on for this long. It may be wise to stop the recording for a moment. If you would like to analyze my form, then I refer you to my currently live broadcast. Oh. The following scene may be too violent for a majority of your viewers, as you have stated earlier. With that, the child unsheathed his sword and raised it vertically in front of his eyes. I believe that the UFI Association has already notarized this activity. Yeah, this won't be a duel to the death. Let the one who allows the other's blade to touch their body first be the loser. Very wise. Well then. A moment of silence, then a gust of wind blasts the field. Then it was all over. The 5 challengers, who had been holding their swords just a moment ago, found their weapons clattering to the ground in the blink of an eye. Then blood, bright red, suddenly spurted from various parts of their bodies. The first challenger, the wrist, the second, the thigh, the third, the torso. He had struck each of them in their vitals, or to be more precise, at spots that were approximately a centimeter away from being fatal. I knew that the Western Sing specialized in focused attacks against their opponents' weaknesses, but this is something else. It may be difficult for first-time viewers to follow my movement. Viewers who would prefer to review the video may re-watch the stream at a slower speed. The child muttered on as he wiped the blood off his sword, but the interviewer was barely listening. Or perhaps she realized that there was no need for her to listen anymore. This interviewer had already gotten her time's worth by watching that impressive duel in person. It would make for a hell of an article. Well, do you like the taste, Miss Faust? Despite the intense scent, the taste is essentially blank. Is this physically possible? The child's eyes sparkled with a hue of jade. Although his eye always had that color, it would sometimes shine brighter than usual, as it is now. Exactly, that's a wonder of this vintage tea. The child exclaimed excitedly. This is the highest quality pu'er, I assume that's how you pronounce that, supplied exclusively to my family, fermented for more than 2 decades in the ideal environment. It's nigh priceless. Kim. The other child seated next to them coughed a couple of times as if he choked on the tea. I must wonder though, is there a good reason to pay such a stiff price for this, for lack of a better word, scented water? It's just that the taste is too subtle for a tongue oversaturated by cheap stuff. A wave of cold, almost real enough to cool the tea seemed to surround the table. Of course, the tea was as warm as ever. Ahem, I do believe that we haven't gathered here simply to mull over tea. His reminder breathed some vitality back into the gathering. Right, of course, to hazard a guess, you wanted to speak about the last mission, yes? That's correct. More specifically, it's about your left eye. The child drank his tea as he maintained a beaming smile. A subtle hint of an enigmatic emotion seemed to blend into his face. I suppose my eyes tend to glow bright. It's no surprise that you will be curious. While the human eye does function similarly to the lens of a camera, it does not come with the ability to emit varying amounts of light. The white-haired one frigidly cut off the other child's salyness. Even if it were a prosthetic eye, there are still grounds for suspicion. Why would such an affluent individual, one able to treat guests with such an expensive tea, settle for such a noticeably mechanical product? I can't do much about what I was born with. To them, I was a gem of a child. Heh. There was a slight tremble to the child's words, but it wasn't noticed by his visitors at the table. And it was certainly an auspicious thing. The child feared, for he had no way of knowing when his eye might flash.
부드럽게
다음은 침묵을 안겨드리죠.
부드럽게
승부차다.
Notice that these guys aren't dying, they're just retreating.
부드럽게
꺼냈다.
힘내.
좋은 결투였다.
부드럽게 균형이 무너졌군요. 균형이 무너졌군요.
힘내.
Nice. Really just gonna watch from there?
그렇게 쳐다봐도 소용없습니다, 관리자님.
You won't sway me with that look, manager.
아무도 귀담아 듣지 않는 길잡이 주제에 칼까지 빼드는 건 주제넘은 짓이 아니겠습니까?
I'm nothing more than a guide that none pay heed to. It would be impertinent of me to brandish my weapon.
아, 마지막으로 오지랖을 부려보자면 K사의 특이점은 HP탄으로 웬만한 상처쯤은 순식간에 회복이 됩니다.
Well, to meddle one final time, K-Corp Singularity takes the form of healing bullets that restore most wounds in the blink of an eye.
어쩌면 관리자님의 그 능력과도 유사하겠군요.
I suppose it could be compared to that ability of yours. Hey, wait. Completely ignoring my feeble plea, not that they could hear it, a corps security guards closed in on us.
증가하겠군요.
Verboten. No sorry for this one.
먼저 간다.
승부처다.
I really love the animations on Heathcliff's skills.
부드럽게.
쉽네.
Got lucky there.
부드럽게.
승부처다.
금방 다녀올게.
침묵을 안겨드리죠.
부드럽게.
쉽네.
좋은 결투.
균형이 무너졌군요.
완전한 침묵.
먼저 간다.
쉽네.
And down this particular batch goes. A little bit trickier, but she'll be fine, so. I think this will be the last one we do, but we'll see.
끌어넘칠 시간이군요.
Yep, now we have the shield guys. They actually have one less skill overall. Alright, moving on.
부드럽게.
먼저 간다.
균형이 무너졌군요.
승부처다.
그 누구도 볼 수 없게. 자! 그 누구도 볼 수 없게.
승부처다.
그 자식은 아직 살아있을 거야.
이 안에 담아주지.
균형이 무너졌군요.
먼저 간다.
어떡. 다시 결투는 끝나자.
균형이 무너졌군요. 균형이 무너졌군요.
Not sure I'll be able to X this stage, but we'll do our best.
어떡.
불타올랐군요.
그 자식은 아직 살아있을 거야. 다음은 침묵을 안겨드리죠.
모든 걸 걷어들일 순 없었어. 할 건 했다. 맛있는 거 준비해줘, 단테.
먼저 간다.
좋은 결투였다. 승부처다. 결투는 끝나자.
어떠냐?
완전한 침묵. 다음은 침묵을 안겨드리죠.
이 정도야? 모든 걸 걷어들일 순 없었어.
Alright, it was close, but I should be able to do this.
부드럽게
절투였다.
다음은 침묵을 안겨하는 자는 침묵.
불타올랐군요.
All right. K-Corp Singularity, HP bullets. Any would-be fatal injuries we managed to inflict were healed away with a single shot of those regenerative rounds. It was only a matter of time before the thread by which Heathcliff's patience was hung snapped.
못 먹겠네. 우린 세상에서 제일 의미 없는 일을 하고 있어. 알아?
I can't take it anymore. This has got to be the most pointless fight in the world. Can't you see?
말했잖아요. 날개와 엮이는 건 무의미하다고요.
I told you, entering into conflict with a wing is an exercise in futility.
이렇게 실시간으로 허무해지는 전투일 줄은 몰랐지.
Just didn't know the futility would hit us right away.
잘라내면 잘라내는 대로 살점이 차오른다.
The flesh regrows as soon as it's removed.
전투를 제대로 지속하기 어렵다.
It is difficult to continue on with combat. Even Ryoshu looks a bit disconcerted.
이딴 예술도 있는 거군.
Really? Art can be rubbish like this, huh? Ryoshu made the most pained expression I've seen from her, begrudgingly swinging her sheath around. Cuts and slashes will mend before even a drop of blood can spill from them. There couldn't be a worse battle for Ryoshu to fight. Isn't there anything we can do?
HP. 헬라포이시스 기술은 손실된 신체의 세포를 끊임없이 보충하는 기술이에요.
HP, or helapoiesis, I assume that's how you pronounce that, is a bioengineered technology that allows for the continuous repair of damaged or lost cells.
한 번 투약받아도 상당히 오래 지속되는데 둥지 안에서 보급을 받는 자들은
One dose already lasts considerably long, so imagine what that means for those in the nest who receive constant supplies.
전투로는 이길 방법이 없다고 할 수도 있겠네요.
To put it simply, you can't reasonably defeat them in combat. Even Faust was shaking her head in despondency, but then...
혼란 속에 비로소 이 몸이 등장하였으니
In the height of chaos, I have arrived at last. A peal of overwhelmingly energetic laughter rang through the air.
쓸 수 있었다고 생각합니다.
It's a story
시청자의
stage.
수가
Let's keep going.
대폭 증가하겠군요.
A figure approached us with terrifying force, reminiscent of a frenzied beast.
뭐야? 뭐가 달려오고 있는 거야?
Hey, what's that thing running at us?
앞으로 3초. 관리자님, 판단을.
ETA is 3 seconds. Manager, your judgment? I don't know. I'm not sure what to. Virgilius was the only one who showed no surprise. To be more clear, he was more displeased than unsurprised at his apparently expected arrival.
역시 오시는군. K사의 대스타.
Ah, there you are. K-Corp superstar. A jovial-looking man appeared amidst the chaos with an obnoxious laugh.
모두 안녕하신가? 목격담은 얼마든지 올려도 되지만 사진 촬영부터는 K사의 공식 허가가 필요하네.
Greetings, one and all. You are free to share stories of the heroic feats you are to witness here, but photographs and more will require permission from K-Corp.
다만 30분 후에는 잡지 인터뷰가 있어서 길게는 시간을 내주지 못해. 섭섭해도 이해해주게.
Alas, I must attend a magazine interview in half an hour, so I cannot overlinger. I pray you to understand.
왜 안 오나 했지.
Was wondering when you'd come.
날개 월급쟁이가 되어버렸다지. 지크프리타.
I heard you became a wagee serving a wings thief, Reed.
그 비아냥거리는 말 본세는 여전하시군 그래.
I see your tongue is as sharp as ever, dear fellow.
코드 퍼플이 발동해서 불이 나게 달려왔더니만 그대의 친구들이었나 보군.
I rushed here at once in response to Code Purple, and methinks your friends were the perpetrators.
친구 아니야. 이 소동 속에 나는 무관하다는 걸 알아주면 좋겠군.
Not exactly friends. I hope you understand that I have nothing to do with the commotion.
그럼
In that case...
그래. 화끈한 정신 개조를 부탁하지.
Yep, I'm counting on you to give them a spicy lesson.
무슨 이야기를 둘이서만 불길하게 속닥거려?
What are you two muttering about? Don't bode well.
동감. 어디서 굴러온 놈이지?
Agreed. From under what stone did he come out?
보아하니 꽤 구석진 골목에서 온 분들도 있나 보군. 좋아. 그렇다면 이번만큼은 특별히 사진 서비스도 제공해주겠어.
Well, it appears that some of you come from faraway lands. Right then, I shall grant you all the privilege of photography for this special occasion.
우리를 아주 길거리 추종자처럼 대하고 있군. 감히
He treats us like worshippers on the streets. How dare you? Oh! Ignore that. Don Quixote, what's wrong? That man, he, him, the man himself.
우리가 좀 바빠서 1분 안으로 끝내줘. 저 시계머리는 빼고 부탁하지.
We're in a hurry, so get this done within 1 minute if possible, and keep that clock head out of this.
의체인간. 그렇다면 50초로 하지.
A prosthetic, is it? Right then, make it 50 seconds. Both a skilled fighter and a talented performer, I could only watch in awe as he proved himself to be nothing short of a hero. Gosh dang. Even Ryoshu is sweating a bit if I'm interpreting this spot correctly.
자, 여기를 한번 봐주게. 우리 팬들이 매우 좋아해 줄 거야.
Now, look here once more. I'm sure our fans will love it.
더럽게 강하군.
This blighter is too damn strong.
방금 뭐란 거지? 깜찍하군 그래?
What did you do just now? Well, isn't that cute? One after another, he made short work of the sinners. Virgilius watched the carnage with a pleased expression.
동지에서 주제도 모르고 나대면 어떤 결과를 초래하는지 깨달을 필요가 있지.
About time they learned what happens if they kick up a ruckus in a nest thinking they can get away with it.
단테, 지금의 당신은 기억이 안 나겠지만 당신도 어쩌면 거물 같은 존재였음 때가 있었습니다.
Dante, you may not remember it at the moment, but at one point you used to be something of a bigwig, so to speak. I was? I just couldn't picture it. Right now, I'm just a powerless leader who fumbles in any emergency, constantly being chewed up, spat out, and ignored in the trash by my sinners. They've even started treating me as the team's field medic. To think that this miserable manager used to be the respected leader of many sometime in the past. I felt a genuine desire to ask Faust for another way to recover my memories.
하지만 기억을 잃었다는 사실이 당신의 관리 소홀에 대한 온전한 면죄부가 되어줄 순 없죠. 무슨 말인지 스스로 아실 거라 믿습니다.
However, your memory loss does not wholly excuse all the faults in your performance as a manager. I'm certain you understand what I mean. I thought of the staff at the K-Corp checkpoint. They show no pity for the family they were about to tear apart, treating it all as nothing more than part of the due procedure. Although Don Quixote got us into trouble when she sprang forth to rectify injustice, I just know it would have haunted my sleep for days if we turned a blind eye. And seeing Heathcliff tighten the grip on his weapon to veins as he witnessed the disturbance. If not Don Quixote, I feel at least one of us would have intervened. Truth be told, I didn't do everything in my power to keep Don Quixote down. Virgilius isn't necessarily wrong when he says the blame rests on me for causing this. Taking back my head might not be for the best after all, Virgilius.
이거 참... 다음엔 꼭 마이크를 달아놔달라고 해야겠군.
Ah dear, I've got to tell them to put a microphone next time.
알아들었다는 소리로 이해하겠습니다.
I'll take it that you've gotten my point.
46.5초. 오늘도 세계를 정의롭게 수호한 시간이었다.
Hurrah! 46.5 seconds. Another day, another heroic tale of justice written.
무대는 끝난 모양이군. 시계 돌릴 시간입니다, 단테.
Looks like the curtains have closed. Time to rewind, Dante. Effie, Sound 2. Since it's a story mission, let's go on. After 12 worlds of agony, the sinners were all back in one piece. The massacre must have been humbling because it feels rather strange seeing them this quiet.
어떻게 지내고 있었는가 붉은 시선. 요새 통 얼굴 보기가 힘들었는데 둥지 속 우수한 해결사들의 모임에도 안 나오고.
How's life been, Red Gaze? We've rarely had a chance to meet in recent times. Haven't shown up to the League of Excellent Nest-Dwelling Fixers lately either.
내가 초대장을 무려 수십 장이나 보냈는데 받지 못한 것인가?
Were you unable to read the dozens of invitations I sent you?
주소 바꿨어. 그리고 당신처럼 충실하게 꼬리 따위 흔들고 있을 여유도 없지.
Changed addresses, and I don't have the time to lick top brass boots like you're doing. I don't know what happened between these two, but Virgilius is a bit hostile here, right?
첫 보기에도 둘의 성향이 다르다고 느끼지 않나요, 단테?
The difference in disposition between them is rather clear, isn't it, Dante? In what ways?
간단히 말하자면 지크프리트 씨는 해결사 중에서도 나에게 친화적인 쪽에 가까웠죠.
Simply put, Mr. Siegfried can be described as a pro-wing fixer based on the views he's expressed.
반면에 베르길리우스 씨는 해결사만의 독립성을 추구했어요.
On the other hand, our guide Virgilius sought independence as a fixer.
영향력이 강한 어느 한 곳에 해결사가 종속되는 순간 해결사가 지켜야 할 최소한의 가치마저도 사라진다고 생각했거든요.
He believed that a fixer loses sight of their core principles the moment they become subordinate to an influential entity.
힘 있는 자들 한정에선 누구보다 엄격한 잣대를 들이미는 사람이니까요.
He is someone who is strict towards those with power, after all. While speaking with Faust, I saw Don Quixote quake and approach Siegfried with shaky hands. She must have been honored to see him, even after being mincemeat by his hands mere moments ago.
팬이요. 그대 피규어도 모아놓았어. 한정판은 아니지만 나도 그대처럼 엄청난 해결사가 되는 것이 꿈이요.
A fan I am. I have collected figurines sculpted after you, though I've yet to get my hands on limited editions. I set my heart on becoming a magnificent fixer such as you.
해결사 꿈나무군. 시간이 얼마 없지만 사인은 해줄 수 있지.
Aha, an inspiring fixer. I have little time to spare, but more than enough for an autograph.
그게 정말이요? 그럼 사인은 여기.
Is that true? Then would you sign an autograph here?
숨 좀 쉬어, 돈키호테.
Slow breaths, Don Quixote.
안내합니다. 상황 종료. 코드 퍼플. 상황 종료. 코드 퍼플. 올 코드 클리어.
Attention, Code Purple dismissed. Code Purple dismissed. All codes cleared.
일은 성공적으로 끝마쳤다.
Huzzah, that's a job done well.
그럼 또 어디선가에서 보도록 하지.
Now then, until next we meet. Leaping with tremendous force, Siegfried vanished into the air. Although there was a small delay, we did get the travel permit in the end. Virgilius returned to the bus in the meantime, or perhaps he only got off knowing that we'd run into that Siegfried. He looked rather upset as he walked away, but no one else seemed to care that much. Clueless to the surrounding frigidness, Don Quixote was happy as a clam, caressing the sheet of paper autographed by Siegfried.
꿈을 꾸고 있는 것은 아닌지 모르겠어. 아, 관리자다리, 내 볼따구 한 번만 꼬집어줄 수 있겠어?
I must be caught in a dream. Manager Esquire, will you pinch my cheek just once? Just as I was about to give the blissful Don Quixote a word while we walked out of the border checkpoint, an armored vehicle stopped before us.
새로운 적인가? 둥제 검문소 앞에서 간도 크군.
A newfound foe? Bold of them to challenge us right in front of a Nest checkpoint.
이 차는 LCC 청소부서 소속이군요.
This vehicle is from LCC, the clearance department. Following Faust's plain reply, the vehicle's doors opened.
나 참... 왜 이렇게 오래 걸린 거야? 이 근처를 3바퀴나 뱅뱅 돌았잖아.
Ah, geez, what took you so long? We had to cycle 3 laps waiting for it to be over. A couple of familiar faces appeared out of the car. Effie and Saud. Even though their outfits had changed, their faces were greased with just as much confidence and poise.
비포 팀에서도 온 건가? 분위기가 좀 달라졌군 그래.
Oh, people from the before team, eh? Something about you looks different, I've gotta say.
그건 카지노 잠입을 위한 위장복이었답니다. 결과적으로는 쓸모가 없긴 했지만 말이에요.
That was the disguise we had in order to infiltrate the casino. It was ultimately useless, though.
그 심부를 찌르는 말투는 여전하구만.
Still got that sharp tongue too, eh? My chest ached a little at the thought of the harmonious cacophony that was our last operation.
소드, 저 시계 시침 바르르 떨리는 거 보여? 저러다가 울기라도 하겠어.
Sao, do you see that hand on the clock trembling? It'll make them cry.
장난이랍니다. 실력으로는 아직 발전해야 할 부분이 한참 남아 있었지만 그래도 LCB 부서만의 색깔이 있다는 걸 인정하기로 했거든요.
I was just being playful. While you had much room for improvement in regard to skill, I've made up my mind to admit that the LCB department has its own character. In spite of the rough path we took, it sounds like we did leave a positive impression on the two.
비포 팀들은 먼저 작전 현장에 도착했는 줄 알았는데요.
The before team was supposed to be on site at this hour, wasn't it?
다른 대원들은 이미 도착해 있을 거야. 너희들이 알면 유용할 추가 정보가 있어서 잠시 남아서 기다려주기로 했지.
The others should be there already. We decided to wait for you because we had useful intel to share.
어떻든 간에 우리가 신경이 쓰였다는 거네. 맞지?
In any case, you cared about us, right?
너희들도 우리의 매력에 헤어나오지 못했던 거 아니야?
We have a couple of new fans knee-deep in our charm.
왜 그런 거 있잖아. 귀신같이 맛없는 재료들만 모아놓아서 요리했는데 묘하게 맛이 있는 거?
You know, something like the sort of food that's cooked from ghastly ingredients, but the end result's a pleasant surprise.
맞아. 전장에 그런 게 많았지. 분명 먹을 당시에는 비참했는데 자꾸 기억에 남는 그...
Yep, had a lot of that on the battlefield. Miserable to swallow, but somehow memorable.
두 분 다 어떤 음식을 드셔왔던 거죠?
What kind of food have you two been eating?
저 그런데 전달받을 정보란 어떤 것인가요?
By the way, what's the intel you were going to share with us?
이번 목표 지점 말이야. 우리 말고 다른 집단이 점령해 있는 상태인 것 같아.
Is that a baton? Yes, it is. It's about our target location. It seems another faction has occupied the place already.
그래서 우리 쪽에서도 평소보다 많은 인원을 투입하고 있지.
We're putting in more manpower than usual as a result.
그래봤자 또 어디서 모여드는 쇠파리 같은 놈들이겠지.
I bet they are yet another swarm of gadflies attracted by opportunity. As Otis pointed out, we weren't new to encounters against groups of foes drawn near the Golden Bows. For our first mission, straggling soldiers from G-Corps took shelter in the abandoned facility. And on our second, a variety of gangs inhabited the casino.
안타깝지만 이번 상대들은 예전 같은 부스러기는 아닌 모양이야.
Unfortunately, our opponents this time won't be some crummy no-names like before.
심사 기록을 슬쩍 살펴보니까 몇 주 전 엔사에서 대거 파견한 기록이 남아 있었어. 심지어 우리와 목적지가 같더라고.
We took a peek at the immigration inspection records and found out that NCOR dispatched a legion of employees a few weeks ago. Same destination as ours too.
엔사에서요?
From NCOR?
공식적으로 드러난 행보는 아니지만 K사 쪽에서도 심사 통과를 해준 걸로 봐선 모종의 거래가 있었을 수도 있지.
Though this wasn't an officially disclosed activity, seeing that the K-Corp has let them pass means they might have made a deal under the table.
즉, N사에서 미리 파견이 와 있는 게 사실이라면 가는 길이 순탄하지만은 않을 거라는 소리랍니다.
Which, if it's true that NCORP has sent staff in advance, then the journey won't be a smooth one.
그렇군. 이거 자칫하다 여러 날개를 척 찌는 건 아닌지 몰라.
I see. I'm worried we might make enemies of several wings as we go on.
장기적으로 봤을 때 날개 간의 충돌은 불가피한 수순일 거예요.
In the long term, conflicts with wings will be an unavoidable step in the process.
하지만 N사에서 공식적인 파견을 공표한 게 아닌 걸 봐서는 단순히 이익 집단 간의 충돌로 마무리될 수도 있고요.
Judging from the fact that NCORP hasn't made this motion officially known, it could end as a simple conflict of interest.
어쩌면 그들이 진정으로 원하는 건 황금가지가 아니라는 가능성도 배제할 순 없어요.
Furthermore, we can't discount the possibility that it's not the Golden Bow they're after.
어찌 됐든 여기저기에 써먹기 편한 게 우리라는 건 부정되지 않은 것 같지만
Doesn't change that we're convenient pawns for our higher-ups to throw around either way.
아, 맞아. K사 입국관리소에서 소동을 일으킨 멍청이들이 있다고 했는데 혹시 얼굴 봤어?
Oh right, I heard some morons cause the scene at the K-Corp checkpoint. Did you guys see who they were?
소문이라는 건 참 빠르게 퍼지는군. 마치 로신한테 갔어.
Rumor travels with such haste. 'Twas as though astride Rocinante. Don Quixote hung her head, possibly in embarrassment. Perhaps she's finally starting to learn that her reckless actions have repercussions. That or I'm mistaken and she's glad that more people know of what she's done.
아깝지 뭐예요. 그런 광경은 자주 볼 수 있지도 않았을 텐데.
A shame I missed it. That's not the kind of spectacle you see every day.
목숨이 여러 개 있는 게 아닌 이상 누가 감히 입국관리소에서부터 소란을...
Really, who in their right mind would mess with a wing at a border checkpoint unless they had lives to spare?
설마... 아니죠?
Please don't tell me.
자, 시간도 얼마 없고 하니 빨리 이동하죠.
Come on, we don't have much time, so we shall get going.
이런... 베르길리우스님은 이번에도 안 계시나 보네.
Ah dear, Mr. Vigilius is nowhere to be seen again.
그 양반 먼저 버스로 돌아갔어.
Him? He went back to the bus first.
아쉽네요. 이번에야말로 얼굴 한번 비추고 싶었는데.
What a pity. I didn't want to miss my chance to say hello.
다음에는 꼭 인사를 하고 말겠어. 너희 대신 우리를 합류시킬 생각은 없냐고도 물어볼 계획이거든.
We'll leave an impression on him next time, mark my words. I'm planning to ask him if we can join the team in your stead. I see. So that's why. What, that's the reason you wanted to meet him?
마냥 농담은 아니랍니다. 이따가 현장에서 다시 봐요.
That wasn't entirely a joke. See you at the site then.
너희가 무사히 도착할 수 있다면 말이야.
If you can get there in one piece anyway. The deal they struck. A pouty Charon and the cold stare of Virgilius awaited us on the bus. The air was heavy with a sense of oppression, leaving little room for light-hearted jokes.
늦었어. 카론 100까지 샜는데도 너희 안 왔어.
You're late. Charon counted to 100 and you still didn't come.
Charon.
Charon. She seemed to have a few more words ready to be flung in that icy tone, but Virgilius put a hand on her shoulder and gave her a glance.
베르, 카론은 지금을 기억할 것입니다.
Charon will remember this.
미안해. 다음에 사탕 사줄 테니까. 어?
Sorry about that. I'll buy you something sweet later. Charon sat in the driver's seat without further complaint, and Virgilius slowly turned to us. If there was one thing the sinners and I were all good at, it'd be sensing imminent danger and making way. Dispersing from the group, we scuttled away into our seats, leaving only Don Quixote anxiously standing in the aisle of the bus.
변명을 듣겠다, Don Quixote.
Let's hear your excuse, Don Quixote.
본인은 핍박받고 있는 약자를 그냥 지나칠 수 없어.
I could not turn a blind eye to the weak being persecuted.
아니, 틀렸지.
No. Wrong. My vision couldn't follow what happened in that instant. I have nothing to blink, so it shouldn't have been possible for me to miss a moment. And yet... when I caught up with the situation, the first thing that came into my sight was Don Quixote brought to the ground, shoulder trampled under Virgilius's shoe.
나는 변명을 하라고 했지. 네 사상을 변호하라고 하지 않았다.
I asked for an excuse, not a justification of your views.
처음이 아니지, 돈 키호테. 벌써 3번이나 비슷한 일이 있었다.
This isn't the first time either, Don Quixote. You're responsible for 3 separate incidents already.
네 정신 나간 짓 때문에 3번이나 일이 어그러질 뻔했다고.
That's 3 separate times you've jeopardized our work with your deranged behavior.
어떻게 생각하지? 말해봐라.
What do you think? Speak.
본인을 위해 동료에게 폐를 끼치기는 했다만.
While my known actions did inconvenience my colleagues, Don Quixote's pained groan grew louder, but no one stepped in. Of course, she was being punished for her own actions. But more than anything, it was evident that disrupting this wasn't going to make the situation better.
생각을 물었다고 왜 말을 알아듣지 못하지?
I was asking for your thoughts. Why do you not understand this?
말하고 있지 않았어.
I was speaking only to be interrupted.
너는 여기서 미안하다는 말을 했어야 해, 돈 키호테.
What you should have said to me at the get-go was an apology, Don Quixote.
덧붙일 거라면 앞으로 어떻게 할 것인지 계획을 말했어야 했고.
Anything you'd add should be an elaboration on how you plan to improve your conduct.
이런 아까부터 답을 정해놓고 말하고 있지 않소?
What unjust... They're demanding a specific answer out of me.
모르나? 회사는 대부분 정해진 답을 갖고 있다. 그 답을 맞출 수 있는 길을 물을 뿐이지.
Don't you know? A company already has the correct answers for its employees. The questions are only asked to see if you can get it right.
회사가 너 따위에게 의견을 묻고 있다고 생각하면 큰 착각이다.
You're sorely mistaken if you believe that company is sincerely curious about your input.
회사가 그렇다면 본인은
If the company insists so, deny.
지치는군.
I'm sick of this. Virgilius kicked Don Quixote, tossing her to the floor. Then, gripping her full by the collar. Yeah, he's mad.
입사할 때를 기억하고 있겠지.
I'm sure you remember what went down when you joined.
그날의 거래를 잊지 않았으면 좋겠습니다, 돈 키호테 씨.
I hope you haven't forgotten the deal we struck that day. Miss Don Quixote. Virgilius's eyes glistened with a much brighter hue of red than usual. Staring directly into them, Don Quixote soon gave back a nod without another word.
여기까지. 원래 위치로 돌아가도록.
That's all. Back to your seat. Watching someone who usually exuded pride and confidence quickly shift to such a discouraged, crestfallen state didn't exactly make for a pleasant sight. Though a deal that got Don Quixote to go silent simply by bringing it up. It makes me wonder what it was about.
다른 놈들도 마찬가지다.
The same goes for the rest of you.
회사는 자아 실현의 공간이나 사상을 설파하는 장소가 아니다.
A company isn't a platform for fulfilling egocentric dreams or preaching big ideas.
취업 규칙을 위반하면서도 돌발 행동을 하겠다면 자신이 치를 대가를 한 번쯤 더 생각하고 행동에 옮기도록.
If you would still go against the terms of your employment contract to act unprompted, consider the consequences before you do.
죽는 게 낫다고 생각하겠지만 죽지 못할 거고 프리랜서가 되고 싶겠지만 퇴사가 불가능한 시기를 보내게 될 테니까 말이야.
You'll spend the grueling period of being unable to escape, not through death, nor through struggles at severance.
아무래도 저 양반 아이고 뭐더라? 저 자크 프리더 씨한테 도움을 받은 게 심히 기분이 상했던 모양이군.
I guess getting help from that guy, who has that again, Mr. Zach Fratcher or something, must have ruffled his feathers.
시크 프리트님이요.
It's Lord Siegfried.
본격적으로 작전 시작도 안 했는데 잔소리나 들었잖아. 그러니까 눈치 좀 보면서 행동했어야지.
Sheesh, the mission hasn't even started and we already got a scolding. Have some tact before you act, okay?
에휴, 언젠가 한 번은 이럴 날이 올 줄 알았어요. 앞으로는 다들 주의하죠.
Phew, I knew this day will come sooner or later. We should all be careful from now on.
둘 다 왜 나를 야리냐? 죽고 싶냐?
Why are you two birds gawking at me? Looking to get stoned?
알았어, 알았다고.
Fine, I got it. I really don't think we're giving Heathcliff enough credit. And at last, a combat and story mission, so we'll go ahead and close things off here. Well, that'll be all for today. The next video will be part 2 of the colony ship video, so do look forward to that. Take care, everyone. We'll see you again real soon.